Hey y'all, Tommy Prine here. My debut album, This Far South, comes out June 23rd. You can pre-order it on my website, and you can go listen to the singles I have out now wherever you listen to your music. And you're listening to The Vinyl Guide.
This episode is brought to you by Vintage Media Grading at vmgvinyl.com. Explore how professional grading can protect your records at vmgvinyl.com. And now, on with the show.
Well, hey everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 399 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And today we are welcoming Tommy Prine to the show to talk about his new LP, This Far South. And I gotta strongly recommend looking this up. There are several songs on streaming services at the moment. The full album comes out June 23rd, but check out the teaser tracks and Apple Music or Spotify if you have them. Such a gorgeous album, and there are limited vinyl pressings available at TommyPrine.com. Now, Tommy, as you may have guessed, is the son of the legendary singer-songwriter John Prine. And today, Tommy talks all about his family's record and music collection, becoming an artist, his teenage rebellion, the records and music that shaped him, and lots more. Tommy has put out a phenomenal LP here, This Far South, and I am certainly looking forward to watching his career continue to grow over the coming years. And finally, we are just a few days away from episode number 400, and we've got a very special guest coming up. We're premiering it first at patreon.com/vinylguide. Supporters of the show will get early access to the show, as well as the video feed of this incredible guest. Plus, it'll be extended as per usual, commercial-free, and high resolution. So please become a Patreon supporter of the show at patreon.com/vinylguide and help celebrate this milestone, episode number 400, with the rest of us. All right, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go, the Vinyl Guide interview with Mr. Tommy Prine. All right, this week on the Vinyl Guide, we are welcoming Mr. Tommy Prine. His new album, This Far South, available June 23rd. There's a single or two on streaming services right now. Have a listen, set yourself up to get the full album when it's released. Black and orange vinyl, tour dates and more available at TommyPrine.com. Tommy, thanks for joining us today here on the Vinyl Guide, mate.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Well, look, I'm excited too. I've been listening to this album. One of the pleasures of being a quote unquote music journalist is I get access to stuff kind of early. And
Right.
This album came through and it's been on very heavy rotation. It's absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, there are elements where the lineage can be recognized, but it's certainly a unique LP. I mean, it stands on its own without the obvious last name on it. So well done
Right
to
on.
you.
Thank you, man.
So becoming an artist in your family, seems to me like it would be a very brave decision. Were there other options? Like, did you set out to be an artist, or were there other career choices kind of at play?
I mean, I think the best way to answer that was becoming an artist was like the last option for me for a long time. Like I just didn't, I never really wanted to do it. I wasn't really interested in that lifestyle. Just because like I saw, you know, like what my dad had to go through, and like it's a hard job, you know what I mean? Like anyone that thinks it's like a breeze is, you know, they don't understand like everything it takes to be an artist, you know. And I always had a lot of respect for artists just because I knew like how difficult of a job it was and how many sacrifices you ultimately have to make. But for me, it was kind of by the process of elimination, by like trying everything else and realizing that I just wasn't happy doing anything else. And then when my buddy Rustin Kelly and Gina Johnson called me, they kind of like pushed me off the cliff, and they were like, "Hey, you're wasting your time. You need to be an artist, and like we'll like walk with you through this." And it was the best decision I ever made. I've never felt more like myself in my entire life, and it's 100% where I need to be and who I need to be. So I'm really grateful that I eventually found my way.
They're all, Tommy, all right, take off the Burger King uniform. You need to be in the studio. Was that the
pretty similar, man. Yeah, I mean, I was working at a gift shop at the time, so.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, as you said, you saw a lot of things in your household and recognized the challenge of being an artist. And so you never really set out to be able to do that. At what age did you pick up the guitar? I mean, was that something that you always had in your
Yeah.
background?
I mean,
Yeah.
I've been playing guitar since I was a really little kid. Like before I can really remember, like before I was making memories, my mom said I would just be like hitting the guitar and like picking them up and trying to play them. Just like trying to like mirror my father, just like whenever I'd see him do it, I'd be like, oh, I should do that too. And I really took to it when I was like 7 or 8. Like I just started playing a whole bunch. And then when I was probably 10 to 12, I got my first um electric guitar and I was obsessed. Like I would just be making noise all day and like trying to learn like Nirvana songs and Green Day songs. And I just never stopped, honestly. I mean, playing guitar and singing and writing music has always been a really important part of my life, but I just never really considered making that like a public part of me or also trying to make a career out of it until like 3 years ago. So
Hmm.
like I've been doing it my whole life. So I've always loved it, but making it a job is kind of still a recent thing, I guess.
So as a teenagers tend to rebel,
Yeah.
um, have at least a period of time in which they do. What did your rebellion look like?
um I mean, probably just tormenting my mother and staying out really late and like doing the, crazy teenage things. And then I guess in a way, thinking about it too, is like I used to listen to like a lot of EDM music, like electronic music. Like that was like the only music I wanted to listen to. And then a bunch of like 90s hip hop and contemporary hip hop and rap. That was pretty much like all that I listened to. So in a way, I almost kind of felt like I was trying to get as far away as possible from like my family name and everything that it was in, incorporated in that. But not because like I was ashamed, just because I was just like any other kid that just wanted to be the opposite of like their parents, like that's a very normal thing. Like everyone thinks their parents are like super lame when you're like 14 and 15,
Yeah.
so I mean it was only like a couple years later when I was like, okay, wait, my parents are actually really cool. But yeah, I think in terms of like me rebelling, I was just kind of like probably, hard to wrangle and then, listen to like a bunch of other music, I guess.
Now, did your mom and dad kind of follow you at least a bit on that? Did you ever sit down and like listen to Public Enemy or Outkast with your parents?
I mean, I think I kind of forced them to because I would just play it so damn loud in my room. I would just like turn it up. And that's one thing I'm really grateful that like my parents were never really like turned that crap down. They were all very like, okay, like, at least he's like listening to music. You know what I mean? I think they were like cool about it. I mean, if it was 3 in the morning, my mother would be pretty upset. But if it's just kind of like after school, I'll just go and turn my speaker all the way up and they were like, whatever, he's doing his
Hmm.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't necessarily listen to any of the stuff that I listened to. I mean, they would just play the music they liked to listen to throughout the house. So I was always exposed to all like music from either end of the spectrum.
I think that's really important. Even if it's just music in the house, you build good taste subconsciously, I believe.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Um, my kids, I think they have a very distinct, because we're always playing records and I like to think that we have a lot of really good music and they seem to pick that up without us even talking about it. I mean, my 8-year-old was listening to John Coltrane at one point, so,
Yeah, there we go.
there's a thing of osmosis there. So
Yeah.
a lot of what we do here on the show is we talk about records and collectibles and things like
Yeah.
that. So your family, I would imagine, has a pretty far out record collection. Would that be fair?
My dad does for sure. He has like a massive one that we still have like stored away in like a fire safe container. Uh and I'll go through it sometimes, but I don't really want to like take too much out of it because I kind of want to keep it all together and just be able to like look through it and put it back. He does have a lot, like a crazy amount, like a very wild amount of records for sure. I personally only probably have like 30 maybe like at my house, and I actually have a couple with me right here.
Oh,
Um
okay.
yeah, but Yeah, my dad did have a very very extensive collection for sure, and also like a lot of CDs, like a crazy amount of CDs as well. He loved all of it. So
Hmm. Did you
yeah,
guys used to gather around the record player? Did you listen as a family, or was it kind of background? How did you?
it was usually like not in the mornings. It was like when I was in like high school and middle school. It was like right like when I got home, there was like the radio was playing, or like
Mhm.
my dad listened to the radio like religiously, like a lot. And then we'd have like a record playing while my mom was like making dinner, or like, and then when it was time to eat, it would just get turned down a little bit. It wouldn't get turned off, you know what I mean? Like we always
Mhm.
had there was always music being played, and they would always try and like, oh, this is a record you should listen to, or like they'd talk to me about like an artist. And I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but it was really cool. Like the older I got, when I would be talking about artists that I really liked that I had been listening to, my dad would be like, "Yeah, I know him well," and I'm like, "Oh, cool!" Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just like that was kind of an interesting like thing where I'm like, okay, so my parents are pretty cool.
If we were to look at your dad's record collection, what's a record or two you think that we'd be surprised to see as part of that collection?
Honestly, I don't think there was anything super surprising in there. I mean, it was like honestly a majority of it was like old Appalachian like music, like roots kind of um country and folk, that was like a lot of it.
Okay.
I don't know about anything that would be like surprising per se. Um I guess surprising, like sonically, it's a little different, but if you really think about it in terms of like the songwriter, it makes a lot of sense. Like my dad really liked Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, like sonically it was very different, but also at the same time, like he's just a really gifted songwriter, and he does a lot of songs that are just like a dude and a guitar kind of thing. So it's just like a little bit more of like a contemporary sort of direction than my dad, but kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, I would imagine the record companies were sending your dad boxes of things to be able to listen to or that sort of thing. Would that happen in the house, like a lot of experimentation, or was it pretty much music that he deliberately went out and got for himself?
It was just honestly like he listened to a lot of music that he had been listening to for a long time. Like he would like listen to like old like recordings from the Grand Ole Opry, and like I said, like a lot of it was honestly radio. Like he listened to radio a lot. And it was some, I think it was some AM channel that was just like a bunch of like 1950s hits and stuff like that. And like cuz he was born in the late 40s, so like when he was a kid, like that was the stuff he listened to, and that was like his favorite music, and he still listened to it like basically for
Hmm.
the rest of his life. Yeah.
And what was one of the first records that you brought home? Do you remember your first record?
Yeah. The very first record I ever got was Speaker Box Love Below by Outkast.
Oh, wow, what a kickoff! How did you discover that?
So that was like the classic, like my best friend's older brother. Like I like heard him playing it in his room, and I was like, "What's that?" And he was like, "This is the new Outkast album. Like, you want to listen to it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so my buddy's brother's name's Micah, and he was in high school when I was in like elementary school, so he had like all like the cool records and stuff. Like he put
Hmm.
me onto the Gorillaz, Outkast, Guster, like all these like cool like the early 2000s records. And that was the first one that I bought because like I did like the dishes for like a week or something, and my mom gave me like $10, and I bought Speaker Box Love Below at Tower Records, and that was the first album that I ever got, and I just fell in love with it. I think I listened to it maybe a thousand times. Too bad there wasn't streaming back then, because I probably would have been a lot of it. So
Now you said you brought some records with you. What did you bring?
so this first one, Tyler Childers live on the Red Barn Radio 1 and 2.
Hmm.
This was a record that I listened to a lot when I was kind of like flirting with the idea of being an artist. It was kind of like the months leading up to me making the decision. And I mean, it's just a phenomenal record. And I actually got to open for Tyler in in London this year. So it's just kind of like a
Wow.
really cool full circle moment from listening to this guy's record and then getting to open for him a couple years later, you know. So
Oh.
that's definitely one of my favorite records. Do you want me
So
just to kind of go through them and talk about them?
yeah, tell us some things, and I'll put links to these in the episode page so people
Okay,
who aren't
sweet.
familiar with them can enjoy them as well.
Definitely. So this one is one that my dad got me. It's Al Green's Greatest Hits,
Hmm.
and I probably play this the most in my house. Like whenever I have like, you know, like a bunch of like laundry to do or like a bunch of dishes or like the house is a mess, I just throw this record on and I have so much fun like cleaning my house. Like the best.
Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
good for making babies too, by the way.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's great. It's good for chores and for love making for sure. It's but yeah, I mean this is just such a damn good record. I mean all of them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then this one, my oldest brother Jody got me this for my birthday a couple years ago. Tribe Called Quest, Midnight
Oh.
Marauders. Yeah.
Hmm.
This is, I mean, like if you enjoy like hip hop at all and you haven't heard this record, come on. You know,
I
like you need to listen to this record.
I love Midnight Marauders. I tend to prefer the low end theory simply because
Oh yeah, sure.
there's
Yeah.
less instances of the N word, and when my kids were little, I could play the low end theory,
Right, right, right,
and
right.
I
Yeah.
knew I had to be careful on like one or two parts of a song. With Midnight Marauders, I'd be constantly hitting the button.
Yeah, like pressing down the vinyl just a little bit to like skip the word. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
yeah.
This is another one that my dad got me. He got me Marvin Gaye, You're the Man.
Uh huh.
Which I love so much. This actually, I would say, is if I had 5 records to bring on an island by myself for the rest of my life, this would be one of them.
Wow.
Um, this song, I mean, all these songs are just like the production that he did. He produced this record, and everything about it is just like it makes me wish I could make an album like this one day, you know. And who knows,
Hmm.
maybe I'll. But it's like, I mean, this record means a whole lot to me for sure. It's another one where like I'll like throw it on if I have like a lot of stuff to do, you know what I mean? Or if I'm just like working or I have like a bunch of like tedious work to do, and it'll just make anything really fun. So
So speaking of Rustin, I know you and he are collaborating quite a bit and working
yeah.
together with Gina. Now, how is it? How do you write? How do you go about it? Is that a solitary thing? Do you write as a bit of a team? How does a Tommy Prine song come together typically?
I mean, I write a lot by myself. Um, and I kind of go in and out between like religiously writing, like it's like a part of my day job, to just kind of writing whenever I feel like it. Since I recorded the record, I've been writing a lot, but in spurts. I'll just kind of like pick up my guitar and noodle around, and maybe a song will fall out. Whereas when I was writing for the album, I was writing intensely for hours, like every day with different people. I would do writers' rounds and open mics to meet other songwriters and write with them just to like, learn as much as I could in a short amount of time, and to almost like get to the point of like creative exhaustion, so that at the end of those 20 songs I've written and I'm tired and I can't think of anything, the only thing that comes out is the truth. And that was kind of the way that I was going through that, and that's how I wrote all the songs for the record. And now I'm just kind of like, some weeks I feel really inspired and I sit down and write, and then I might go like 2 or 3 weeks without writing anything. um I do really love writing with Rustin. I feel like he is one of the only people that I I feel like we both could probably have written the song like by ourselves in some like
Hmm.
multiverse, you know what I mean? We're just very much like on the same page, and it doesn't take like a lot of explaining to like tell him what I'm thinking, and he doesn't have to really tell me what he's thinking. We just kind of get it, and we've made some really beautiful songs together, and I'm definitely looking forward to recording some more of those in the
Hmm.
future.
Is writing like a therapy for you? Like if you feel emotions coming up, do you instinctively kind of reach for the guitar?
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, I find it easier to write about my emotions and my life experiences than I find it easy to talk about them. And I don't know if that's gonna like serve me as a person well in the future. And I mean, I'm sure it'll serve me well as an artist and a songwriter doing that. But it just always has been an easier way for me to connect with myself and other people, really, is writing songs. I feel like that part of my brain is always like a couple steps ahead of me in terms of like trying to process something or figure something out or find an answer. And I always find that whenever I write, it's kind of like a free, therapy session in a way. It's just kind of something that I can, a place I can go to where I can be fully vulnerable and honest and, try and get to the bottom of something or ask a question that gets me to the next page. So
I guess the process of the record coming together, you said it's a little bit different than kind of your normal writing style. You would write to the point of exhaustion. It's almost you clock in and try to get a couple hours a day or something like that. Yep. Is that, where did you learn that routine?
Honestly, just from hanging out with other songwriters in Nashville. And the thing is, like, a lot of them that I had been meeting and hanging out with, they all have like publishing deals. So like that's what they do and have been doing for the last 3 years. They just write incredibly like multiple songs in a day, or at least one or two, like 9 to 5. Like they'll literally like clock in and write songs and go from like one co-write to another to another to an open mic. And that for me, I felt like was important to live like that when I was making the record, because I had a lot of songs that I had written in my late teens and like really early 20s that I liked. But when it came time to deciding to make a record and I was playing them all out, it just, like only one or two of them felt right. Whereas like every other thing didn't. It just didn't feel like something I wanted to say to the world. And my father died in 2020, and that was a very traumatic experience, and writing from that, I felt like helped me kind of walk through that dark part of my life. And I mean, for better or worse, I mean, tragedy always brings about like really amazing art in some people, and sometimes it just brings inspiration. And I'm very proud of the record that I made. And, I think part of that is just that I've been through a lot of shit and I had to figure that shit out, and writing helped me do that.
Did you and your dad talk about songwriting? Did he hear many of these songs before he passed?
We'll be back after these messages. There's no doubt about it. Record collecting has become a serious hobby and even an investment for many around the world. So record collectors have to ask themselves how best to protect their prized records and confidently buy and sell with others. There is an option to consider: vintage media grading at vmgvinyl.com. vmgvinyl.com will professionally grade your record and encase it in protective plastic, so your record will retain its value for decades to come. This is the same approach that comic book and sports card collectors have done for years. Now, I know many record collectors will be horrified with the thought of having their records graded and encased in plastic. And for the majority of records, this isn't necessary. But if you have top dollar records that you need to protect, maybe a super rare album that's languishing on the shelf, a one-off misprint, or a special LP that you want to protect, look up vmgvinyl.com, Vintage Media Grading, and see if this service is right for you. That's Vintage Media Grading, vmgvinyl.com.
Hey everyone, I'm here to talk to you about Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips. Ever find a record in a used bin where the vinyl is gorgeous, but the sleeve has this ugly split and is even falling completely apart? Well, that's okay. Grab it anyway, because with Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips, you can fix that right up. Seems Easy record repair strips repair seam splits from the inside, so it doesn't affect the appearance of a record sleeve, but it does make it functional again. With Seems Easy, records can now slide in and out like new. Turn a $5 record into a $25 functioning collectible. Just ask your local record shop for Seems Easy strips, and if they're not in stock, go to seamseasy.com. That's Seems Easy with 2 Z's. Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips. Seems Easy. Because it is. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
Now we return to the program, already in progress.
No limits.
Did you and your dad talk about songwriting? Did he hear many of these songs before he passed?
No, he only heard a handful of them because it was really like the end of at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020 is when I started showing him my songs, because I was like too scared to show him or my mom any of my songs for like, my whole life. And that's not to say anything about them as parents. That's just me like not wanting to be like vulnerable in that way to my parents, because that's like a very scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he heard a couple of them. He heard Boyhood, which is on the album, and I think that's really about it. Other than, Boyhood is really the only song that he heard that was on the record. And everything else I wrote after he passed. So, I mean, he knew I wrote songs, and I got to play an opening set for him in Florida in January of 2020. So I'm really grateful that I got to do that at least once.
Now, him spending his life in the music industry and knowing the ups and downs that were part of it, did he have a conversation with you about, you're embarking on this career as being an artist? Did you guys have a conversation? Any warnings or guidance he gave you?
No, because in November of 2020 is when I made like the decision. Is like when I like quit my job and just like full time went into like trying to turn this into a job. And before that, like I had played like one show, and then I opened for my dad for like a 30-45 minute set that felt like a million years, because it was like one of my first times being on stage. And I think he was just happy that I was like finding joy in music, and that I was feeling self-confident enough to show others my music. I think he led a lot by, not by what he said, but just by like how he acted and like what his perspective was. And the thing that I could really tell from him in the way that he would talk to me like after I played, or if I was talking about playing music, I think the way that he was looking at it was kind of just like, don't worry about what other people are going to think or are going to say. Like, if you love it, then you love it. Then you should do what you love.
I imagine that was probably a theme for anything that you tried. He would have been
100%. I mean, my parents never once forced me to do anything in my life. They just noticed what I liked, and then they would just kind of follow behind and support me until I didn't like that thing anymore, or if I outgrew it, or if it just wasn't something that I wanted to do for longer than like a couple months or whatever. They never pushed me in any direction. They only ever pushed me to try things, and it wasn't ever specific. It was just like, maybe you would like this, maybe you'd like that, like, and then they would just kind of see what I liked. And I'm really grateful that they parented like that, because it allowed me to create my own personal connection with music. And I think that is one of the requirements of being an artist, is that you need to have like your own personal connection with it, or else you can't have your own personal voice with music.
Now, with This Far South, the songs that are on there, what are some of the influences that you've heard that you can hear within the music that maybe we're not hearing? Or maybe we don't recognize.
Yeah, I mean, for this record, I think honestly, like the best way to describe it is that like I made a record that like my like 19-year-old self would have like loved to listen to because I listened to like so many different genres and like so many different things, like anything
Yeah.
that's ranging from like, Justin Vernon, Bon Iver stuff to like the Chili Peppers or like to Sufjan Stevens or I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know what like the influences were really personally for me. I think
Because I'll be honest, I don't hear any Outkast on there.
yeah, I get that for sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly, man, I don't really know. I listen to like the opposite of the kind of music that I make a lot of the time. And I don't really know how that works, but like it works, I mean, I listen to other stuff that I may never make myself, but um I don't know. I think it gives me the space in my head to make what I want to hear.
A bit of a palate cleanser
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have like dozens or more fragments of songs that you have that you kind of workshop here and there, or do you tend to write in one particular focus? You stick with the song until it's done.
On the whole, honestly, it's a lot of fragments, and then one day a full song will come out, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
use like three or four of those fragments to put in because I'll write like a verse that is like really good, and then I won't have a chorus for it, and then I'll write a chorus that's really good, but I cannot for the life of me figure out the melody of the verse, and I'll just keep like all these little nuggets in my head, and then I'll go to a co-write, and if I'm really enjoying the co-write, I'll pull out some of those to kind of like, try and, bring it to the finish line. Or when I'm writing by myself and there's like a melody that is stuck in my head and I need to finish the song, then I'll just like use as many of like the little fragments that I have, like even if it's a word or like a little phrase or like a derivative of the way that I wrote a different line in a fragment, and I'll like kind of form that into like a song. Because in a way, it's almost like it's like hard for me to use those like little like fragments that I love a lot because I'm like, oh, but what if there's like a better song that I can put that in? Because you're almost like killing that fragment every time you like use like one of the verses out of the three you wrote because like I like then I won't use even the other two. You know what I mean? It's like I'm killing those ideas, but then I'm sacrificing them to create like a song that I'm proud of, and then I just move on after that and keep writing.
Okay. All right. So there's that decision to say whether you spend it here or you hold on to it for another day.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of This Far South, that's been a record you've been working on for the last few years. You've been pulling together all your collaborations, and the fragments, the best of the best, has been distilled into This Far South.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the next record? Are you already starting to form that? Is that something that I guess is weighing a bit heavy now that you're kind of starting from a bit of a blank page?
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of think that This Far South has allowed me to take any direction that I want because there isn't really one sound on that album. I don't, and that was on purpose. Like I chose songs that I honestly think there's like three different almost kind of distinct sounds on the album. And I did that because I didn't want to like pigeonhole myself for like the next 7 to 10 years of like what people would expect, basically. You know what I mean? I just I wanted to make something that I wanted to hear, but I wanted people to listen to this record and be like, okay, damn, this guy can do this, this, and this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this next song is going to be like vibe one or vibe three, and then I put out a song that's like vibe two. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to put out a record that allowed me to be who I wanted to be here, now, and then in the future. And I think, I mean, honestly, I pretty much have record two written. Like I have most of it done. Um, I'm just trying to like mentally stay focused on like the
Yeah.
album that I'm trying to roll out now because it's really easy for me to get ahead of myself. And I'm like already like calling Rustin, like, all right, dude, so for record two, like we're gonna do, and he's just like, yeah, like I'm excited, but like, you still got your tour to come up and like doing all this. So like focus on this.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you realize it's new to us, but you've been you've been chewing that same gum for a couple of years. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we finished tracking the record in July of 2021. So
wow.
I've just been touring since then.
The song I think that touched me the most, and because of my father, he instilled this love for Johnny Cash and the Carter family. So Cash Carter Hill.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Tell me about Cash Carter Hill.
So cool story about that song. When I was talking to Rustin in late 2020, and he was just telling me that when he was going through like a bit of like a hard point in his life and he needed to get away from the city and just kind of get away from the world and just be alone for a couple days. He was talking to his friend John Carter Cash,
Mm-hmm.
John June's son, and he was like, "Hey man, like to Rustin, he was like, if you just want to go like get away from the world for a little bit, you can go to my parents' house and just like chill out there for a little bit. He's looking over the house and taking care of it, but like no one's really there. So if you wanted to go there, go for it." And Rustin told me that, and I was like, "Damn, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my entire life." Like, wow, basically. And I kind of like half joking was like, "Oh, we should write for my album there." And Rustin called me a couple days later, and he's just like, "I have the keys. We're going for 4 nights." So we went to Johnny Cash and June Carter's home, which actually originally was Mother Maybell's home that Johnny bought from Mother Maybell. And it was a really powerful place. It was for the most powerful place I've ever been in my entire life. And we wrote a lot, I'd say close to like a third of the record there. And every morning we would go into the woods in the back. There was this really steep hill that just was covered in like forest, like immediately out in the backyard. And we would just hike up the hill every morning just to kind of get the air in our lungs and the blood flowing and get ready for the day. And the first morning that we walked up there, we both found our own little spots. And I just pulled out my phone and basically wrote like a poem. I just kind of felt it just kind of landed into my head somewhere. And I wrote it in just about 10 minutes. And then on the way down, I was reading it to Rustin, and he was like, "Oh, like that's really cool. Like maybe we should, put some chords to it." And we did, and it turned into that song. And I think that song's a very high point for me on the record, just because I feel like the whole gist of it is kind of like overcoming your own journey and like kind of like getting yourself out of your own way to become who you need to be. And that's kind of like almost sums up the whole record in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that song is I'm just really excited about that one, honestly. So I'm glad you liked it, because that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. Was this is this the house with the studio? Does it have a studio in it? A recording studio? Oh,
no.
Okay. Because we had
just a home. It's the home that June grew up in.
Okay. Because John Carter's been on the show, and
nice.
When he and I were talking, he was in a place, and in the background was all sorts of ephemera from Johnny Cash and June Carter. And part of it was like, wait a minute, just give me a quick tour of this, because I keep getting distracted by, oh my God, what is that? What is that?
Yeah. That may have been like the cabin in Hendersonville. That might have a studio in it or not. I don't know. But no, this one, the house that we were at, was just like a really pretty like home. It was just a house. Yeah.
Now, in terms of your promotion of This Far South, you're doing quite a bit of touring. Looks like you're over in the UK, Ireland, and then Florida, and then other parts of the East Coast. What else is planned for getting out and starting to tour now?
Well, I got a bunch of dates that I'm announcing pretty soon for the This Far South tour. So I will be all over the place, man. I'm like most people that are listening to this. If you're in America, I'll be nearby.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm really far south. I'm in Australia. So any
Right.
hope that you're getting this far south?
Maybe next year. There was talks of me doing it this year, but I couldn't because it was this month, and I'm doing the basement residency here in Nashville. So if I wasn't doing that, I would have been in Australia. But
The
maybe.
Blues Fest or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, anything. I just want to go. I've never been.
Well, actually, yeah, John Carter, he comes here all the time. So, yeah.
Nice.
All right, Tommy. Well, I hope we do see you this far south. I do want to encourage folks to check out the new album. Now, there's a single or two on streaming services right now, and you can set yourself up for when the album's released, the whole thing will download. But there's also black and orange vinyl available at tommyprine.com. So I'm assuming that's relatively limited. So you may want to get some of that sooner than later. There's also tour dates up there, tommyprine.com/tour. And if he is coming to your town, make sure to check him out because, look, I thoroughly enjoyed this record, and I can't wait to see it live. And again, I hope you get this far south to Australia. Tommy, you're always welcome on the show, mate, and best of luck on your new tour.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
There we go, Mr. Tommy Prine. And again, that album, This Far South, absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. You can listen to some of the tracks right now, especially Cash Carter Hill, the title track, This Far South, several others. It's a great eclectic mix. Special vinyl colors are available at tommyprine.com as well as tour dates. And don't forget, episode 400 is coming up. Please consider joining our Patreon crew, patreon.com/vinyl guide, and let's usher in episode number 400 together. All right, and that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share these episodes on social media. Share them on Facebook, tweet them out on Twitter, drop them in the Reddit threads or forums or Facebook groups or whatever you got. Tell your record nerd friends about the podcast. Help them work out how to get a podcast on their smartphone. That's always appreciated. And we'll be back shortly with the brand new episode, number 400. So stay tuned. Until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.